Welcome to this week's edition of the Cart Barn Podcast. I'm Chris Lemley, joined by my co-host, Greg DeWalt. Greg, this past week, the Alabama Golf Association finished up their last tournament of the season, the Alabama Senior 4-Ball and Super Senior 4-Ball. In the senior division, John Fisher and Scott Johnston took home the first place prize. And my friends from Decatur, Dana Amberson and Harry Kirkland, defended the Super Senior title, and they won again. And all of that was held at Wind Lakes Country Club in Montgomery. The golf course was in fabulous shape, maybe the best I've ever seen it. Unfortunately, my golf game was not.
Yeah, tell us how you and your partner Tracy Lentz finished up down there, Chris.
Well, played so bad the first day I had to re-grip my ball retriever. But the second day we played a little better, but we came up one shot short of the cut.
You're missing by one, might as well miss by 10.
There's a lot of truth in that. So, but it was nice to get away to go play. I always enjoy playing with Tracy. We've played a lot of golf together, and just disappointed that we didn't play a little better this time, but it was good. And speaking of that, I was able to see this week's guest, Andy Priest, the outgoing executive director for the Alabama Golf Association.
Yeah, so I've known Andy since shortly after he arrived in Alabama, and I think I met him when Birmingham Country Club was about to host the U.S. Junior National Junior Tournament 2016, 2017, back in there, and got to know him pretty well. He's done a lot of great things with the Alabama Golf Association. I think you ask anybody, he's kind of taken it to the next level. Got a great staff to work with. A lot of them been there with him, since day one. So looking forward to talking to him. He's going to give us a little insight as to what he's going on to bigger things, going back home to the Carolinas where he's from. And he says some good things about his time here in Alabama. So without further ado, why don't we just go ahead and get into the conversation with Andy Priest of the Alabama Golf Association.
Welcome to the Cart Barn Podcast. I'm Chris Lemley, and I'm joined by my co-host, Greg DeWalt. Today, we're pleased to welcome Andy Priest, the executive director of the Alabama Golf Association, to the show. Andy, welcome to the Cart Barn.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Greg. Thank you all for having me today.
It's great to have the outgoing executive director with us. So there's going to be no interruptions because everybody just knows to go see the new executive director, Jeremy Gardner, right?
That's exactly right. Just point down the hallway now.
There you go.
Now I don't have to make decisions. I just be like, well, I don't know. Let me go talk to Jeremy. Let me see what he wants to do, what he thinks. And so
That's awesome.
We're incredibly excited and happy and proud of Jeremy and what his trajectory and the things that he's done here at the AGA and what he will do in the future.
Good deal. Well, we appreciate you coming on before you skedaddle up to the Carolinas section. And so why don't you just give us a quick, how did you get into the game of golf and take it from there?
Yeah, gosh, I'm going to start dating myself here a little bit. So I was, growing up, I grew up in North Carolina, so I'm a native and grew up in Raleigh. Baseball was my sport growing up. And I was decent back then, and all state, had scholarship, went to Campbell University, and played baseball there for 4 years. Fighting camels. Got a little shout out to my friends in Bowie's Creek. But golf was always in the back of my mind, a love of mine, and some parallels between baseball and golf. My dad worked at North Carolina State University, and we were middle class kids, but we were members at a university club, and it has a 9-hole par 3 course there, and that's what I grew up playing, was a 9-hole par 3 course during the summers. Mom would drop us off, and we'd spend all day out there in the pool and play golf, play a little tennis, and just kind of filled the day with that. So really, that was my introduction to golf, was just playing a little par 3 course. And so it was, anytime I saw the Masters, things like that, just always intrigued me. But once I got through with undergraduate, I got a opportunity to work in athletic department doing athletic operations, and within that, Campbell has his own golf course at Keith Hills there, and the golf teams would host their own tournaments each year. The men's program would have an event, the women's program would have a different event, and we would be, as the operations team, we would have to go over there and do outside the ropes operations, set up tents, and do chairs, things like that. And I always thought, well, this is kind of cool just to be around golf. And so I went to Coach John Crooks, who is still there and a former U.S. junior champion. He's had an amazing career there. But I went to Coach Crooks and asked him, said, look, Coach, I love golf. I love doing operations. Kind of are there any job opportunities? And, what do you think? And he handed me an internship for the Carolinas Golf Association. So that's really where it started for me, was the summer of 1997. My parents thought I was crazy. I was 24 with an MBA. They thought I should have been in downtown Raleigh in a high rise wearing a suit every day and working in the banking industry or something. And it just wasn't my path. I knew sports, athletics, something like that was more my speed and what, drew me in. And I told my parents, I said, look, what's the worst thing that can happen here? I spent a summer in Pinehurst. My grandmother was in Southern Pines, so it was, going home. So no big deal for me to do that. And I said, look, if it doesn't work, then I'll go find a real job in the fall of 1997. But about a week into the internship, I realized this is what I wanted to do. And I went to Jack Nance, who's been executive director since 1992, that I'll be replacing here at the end of the year. And I went to Jack and just said, look, I love this. I'm willing to go to any tournaments, whatever you need. I'm all in on this. And really, that was the start. And from there, I got an opportunity. CJ did not have a full-time job at the time, so I had a 4-month internship, finished that, and our junior golf director at the time had a friend of his who was working with the International Junior Golf Tour based out of Hilton Head, and they were looking for another tournament person to come down there and help them. And they ran tournaments back then opposite the AGA. So the AGA back in the late 90s kind of owned the summer, and then the school year was pretty much kind of open, although AJGA, would run a few events here or there, but there was opportunity to have other entities. So I went to work for the IJGT for a little over 2 years there, and stayed in touch with Jack at the Carolinas, and he called me. I remember vividly, called me November of 1999 and said, "I've got a job for you if you want to come." So 2 months later, I was back in Pinehurst, or Southern Pines, and actually our office back then was out in Seven Lakes, West End, kind of about 10 miles west of Pinehurst, and started there in 2000. So that's kind of how the journey started for me, and then had a nice long run there at the CGA, and for 16 years almost, and till this opportunity in Alabama came available, and found my way down here.
That's pretty interesting. So go back just a minute and let's talk about that par 3 course. Why?
Mm-hmm.
I think par 3 courses are fun, and it's a really good way to introduce people to the game. I just wonder what your thoughts are on that, and why there maybe aren't more of those.
Chris, I totally agree. And you're starting to see short courses become a big thing. For a while, it went from building the hardest championship type courses that you could find. And now we're rewinding a lot of that. The philosophy has changed totally to where you're right. It's more about fun and engagement and entertainment and um, time as well. That's the other thing that par three or short courses provide is now you're only having to play golf for an hour or two and try and squeeze that in to everybody into a busy lifestyle. So I'm with you there. I think you're starting to see expansion of par three. Here with the trail taking their 18-hole par three course and turned it into the backyard at Oxmoor, and have artificial turf tee. So there's some benefits on that side with maintenance and so hopefully you'll start to see a few more of those things pop up. But you're starting to really see them, especially at resort destination type places. Pinehurst, Bandon Dunes, Stream Song. They have figured out that us get a little bit older. We used to, hey, I want to play 36 holes, and let's go around twice today. And I think we figured out now. It's like, well, maybe we'll play 18, and then we'll go play the short course afterwards. And so you still, I think they've figured out the entertainment value, and it's a lot more fun and engaging, and like I said, the time aspect of it, I think, is incredibly beneficial. So hopefully. I don't know if any other new projects in Alabama. We certainly have a few, par three courses. The trail, like I said, the backyard. Uh, over at down in Grand National and Auburn, Opelika, they got one of the best par three courses in the country. Arguably, I mean, they renovated it a few years ago. It is, if you've never been down there, it is a wonderful, wonderful golf course, and it's legit. It ain't just this chip and putt type golf course. You could take any par three on that course and put it out onto a traditional golf
Yeah.
course. It would fit right in.
Yeah, I think the RTJ was really kind of at the forefront, not knowingly at the forefront of what it was to be, golf was to become in the short courses, which are really hard. The one in Huntsville is hard, but they're still fun, but they're very difficult.
Yeah, the one at Silver Lakes is probably the hardest. I take that back. Before the one in Greenville, before they kind of let it go and just focused on the 27 holes there. But that was a tough golf course. So you're right, Craig. There, the trail, is kind of known for being a little more on the difficult side with the game, and they've done a great job of coming back over time and doing some softening with green complexes and trying to make the golf courses much more fun and playable. And I know that's a big thing they're trying to work on right now.
Yeah, I think you can see in the later courses, the ones in Muscle Shoals, the greens were not nearly as difficult as the in early projects that they opened in the 90s, and I think people enjoy that.
Yes, much so, and that was the philosophy. Like I mentioned earlier, there was that time period where people wanted the hardest golf courses, known to man, and it was a thing for a while, and I think we've all realized that probably wasn't the best approach, and you want repeat customers. That's the thing. You don't want to just beat people's brains in. They're like, I'm never coming back and playing this golf course again. You want them to have a great experience and come back and tell others about how great it is. So and that's what the trail has done.
I've played a course up in New Jersey called Hamilton Farms, and it's got a really great, nice golf course. But they have a USGA rated par three course there with it that is just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard, but it's fun, and you got carts and you can wheel around that thing, and you can play 18 holes in about just a little bit 2 hours easily. It's
Yeah,
just fun.
You're right, Chris. And with the world handicap system now, one of the changes recently was to rate par three short courses for handicap purposes. And, our team here, we've been working on rating, the short courses in Alabama. So most of them have been done, or the courses that want to be rated. And there is a minimum yardage of 750 yards for 9 holes that they have to meet to at least get a potential rating. So I think as far as the short courses go, there's a lot of benefits to them, and you hope to see some expansion of it. I know, speaking of going into the Carolinas, there's a few facilities being built. There's a thing called Threes in Greenville that Justin Timberlake and his group's kind of behind, and they're actually building another facility in Charlotte, kind of a 12-hole short course lit at night, cool vibe bar, kind of hang out, go to work, go there at 6 o'clock at night. In 2 hours you can have dinner and play some golf under the lights, and really kind of making more of a social thing than be home at a decent hour. So you're starting to see some of that, but it does take some investment, and certainly love to see that scale and have more of those type of facilities here in Alabama in the future.
Yeah, I think we'll get there as long as the golf post-COVID golf boom continues. I think those opportunities will eventually be here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
So just kind of to build on that, so you get to Alabama in 2015. What as your first executive director's job, what did you find when you got here, and how did you kind of put your stamp on the AGA?
Yeah, I mean, Greg, when I was hired, I knew, I was following, a long-term, executive director here, Buford McCarty, and Buford had a wonderful run here, and he left me a great nucleus to work from on the staff side, with Donna, Brian, and Adam here, and so that was the starting point. So I knew there was a lot of opportunity to take what had been done at the AGA and the Southern Golf Association, and take them forward into the future. And those were my marching orders when I was hired. Was hey, we're in a good place, but we'd like to take it even further. And so that was really my what I was hired to do. And really the first thing we did when I got here was a rebrand of the AGA. And so that was top of mind. When you come in and try and reset and look to the future, we wanted to kind of change our image and modernize it a little bit. So that's where we went through a branding exercise, and that's where we landed on where we are with the AJ logo now versus what it was. It had elements of the old logo into the new one, and so we just felt it was time to kind of give it a shot in the arm. So that was one of the big things to start with, was just the image and modernizing it. Otherwise it was, taking a deep look at where we were as an organization, what we were doing, and things that we were not doing. And one of the biggest areas that we were not really touching a whole lot outside of the state junior boys and girls championships in the state high school was just junior golf as a whole. And, we as an organization had kind of let other groups in the state do their thing. I guess the best way to put it, Birmingham Golf Association, and down at the coast, Jimmy Green, and there was a group, Alabama Junior Golf Association. So there was already some other groups, but we knew that to grow in the future, we've got to put more resources and more skin in the game, if you will, for junior golf. That's what it's about. So we, started working with the existing junior groups. The last thing we wanted to do was, duplicate, triplicate what was already being done. And over time, that's when we hired Jeremy Gardner to be our first director of junior golf to come in and build out a junior program. And it wasn't necessarily just more tournaments at the beginning. It was now, all right, we don't have state junior rankings. Let's get rankings going. We need, we don't have junior players of the year. So let's start identifying, the best male and female junior golfer in the state. And then from there, it kind of started taking off. All state teams are recognizing our top 30 boys and girls in the state each year for their achievements and what they did, on the golf course. So really that was kind of the beginning of the junior golf program, and now it's evolved into more events. And the 13 and under now it's its own championship, and we've got the Junior Golf Alabama initiative with our friends at the Alabama Northwest Florida PGA section. So now it's kind of taken off a life of its own, and kind of has its own department now. I got two staff members and over there, went from 0 to 2 in 9 years. I think that's pretty good
Yeah.
there. And our junior membership has grown, I don't know, 600% in over the last 9 years. And I mean, we went from, I don't know, 500 or 600 members to now almost 6,000. So it's amazing what we've done on the junior golf side.
Yeah. Well, I would agree. So you've been here since what, 2015?
November 2015 is when I started.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you as a participant in the AGA events that I can see that there's been some extraordinary growth, and the elevation of the tournaments that you guys are putting on has been enhanced, and I want to commend you for that. Greg, I'm going to kind of jump over one of your parts here, but you touched on something, Andy, about the Southern Golf Association.
Mm-hmm.
And can you kind of just elaborate a little bit about that relationship and how you've been able to kind of to grow that and combine, and what you've been able to do there with respect to the elevation of those events and how that works?
Yeah. First, before I get to that, I'll just say thank you for the nice words about our events. Our philosophy here is for 98% of our members, this is the highest level of golf that they're going to play. So we want to make sure that they get a great experience. And if they do advance and play in USGA championships, that it's no different. When they get to a USGA event, it's like they're used to the ropes, they're used to the starting, they're used to the signage, they're used to, kind of having a feel to it, and they're not as intimidated as maybe some other might be if they're not, exposed to that previously. So that's kind of where we come from on that. But going back to the question about the Southern Golf Association, it's a long standing relationship between the AGA and the SGA, and it goes back really into the 70s when Joe King was the executive director or secretary, whatever the title might have been back then for the AGA and the SGA. And so the SGA really asked Mr. King to kind of handle the day to day of the Southern while he was handling the Alabama Golf Association. And back then it really wasn't a paid position. And Mr. King did it because he loved it. And and I never met Mr. King, but certainly everybody that has interacted with Mr. King, that's why he called him Mr. King. That's the respect that everybody has for him. And not only what he's done at the AGA or the SGA, but the USGA level as a rules official there for 20 plus years at US Opens. And so he's just a widely respected individual in our world for a long time. And, and then it came into the kind of the mid 80s where, things started growing, and Mr. King, knew that, hey, look, this is, probably need to hand the reins over to somebody else. And that's when they identified Buford McCarty to come in. So he worked with Mr. King for a couple of years and transitioned over those duties from Mr. King to Buford. And so really that's how it's been. That's the relationship. And then when I got here, the Southern, it took a couple more years to transition the Southern over to me after I got here. And so I officially took over the Southern in July of 2017. Was my first year really at the helm of the SGA. And for those that don't know, the Southern Golf Association runs two events, and that's really all this group does. And one is the Southern Junior Championship, which went from kind of I won't say a local regional type event to now it's an international tournament. We had players from 25 states and 6 or 7 countries this year come and play. But really the flagship event for the SGA is the Southern Amateur Championship, which is one of the top 5 men's amateur events in the world. We've done a lot of work on that board. We got separate boards, and the AGA's got a board, and the Southern's got a board. So I, kind of work with two different groups. There is one individual that's the crossover, kind of in between the bridge, as I call them, between the two groups. But we as a group wanted to refocus, because the event had kind of started to slide a little bit. And so we knew that it takes a couple things to really put on one of the top events in the world. Number one, resources. I mean, it takes money. It's just that, can't hide from that. To go to the best facilities, to run it operationally the way it's going to done, to give those players, especially nowadays, with what's expected at the elite level, that it takes money. So that was one area that we had to address, and we continue to address it today. You never have enough, but I use the analogy with our board. We're a major league team working on a AA budget, and that's kind of it's the truth. We are very very efficient with our resources and how we spend the money and our staff time and our directors' time, and for the output that we get. So it's really a remarkable group there. And then the other piece of it is just golf courses and player experience. You gotta, if you're going to run world-class events, you got to go to world-class venues, and that's been a focus of ours to recruit. Not that the Southern hadn't been going to great facilities, because that is, just go back and look through where we've been over time, but we have really become more focused on where we have events. It's not just necessarily the golf course itself, but it's the other things that go along with it. The location, is it near an airport? It's, what the logistics are that surround that, so we know there's some phenomenal golf courses, but they're not easy to get to. And that may not fit, what the Southern is, especially in the middle of these players traveling nationally and internationally for week to week, playing in the Elite Amateur Golf Series or in other events. So we got to try and make it as convenient as we can for those players. So we just signed an anchor agreement with Sea Island that they're going to host the Southern Amateur on years that end in 0 going forward. So 2030, 2040, 2050, Southern Amateur is going to be at Sea Island. And that goes along with the honors course up in Tennessee, which we had the Southern Amateur there last year in 2023. We actually had a flip-flop dates. They had the U.S. Senior this year. We were supposed to have it this year. Our traditional date, or they're one of our anchor sites, is on the fours. So it makes scheduling real easy. We got Sea Island on the zeros, honors course on the fours, then we got Country Club of North Carolina and Pinehurst on the sevens. So we already have 3 out of 10 years already plotted out for us. So now it's a matter of filling in with Atlanta Athletic Club and Club at Old Stone up in Kentucky, and so we're just very fortunate. Country Club Birmingham here is going to host the 125th Southern Amateur in 2031. So you see the USGA scheduling out, and you see these press releases like, oh, they got the 2046 already booked and this and that. It's like, well, that's kind of what you have to do nowadays. There's especially these high end championship caliber facilities that not, you got the Southern asking for events, you got the USGA asking for championships, you got maybe the PGA of America asking for events, and so you got capital projects planned, so there's all these things that go into when you ask for a site that you gotta factor in, and so when you get an opportunity to kind of plan out for the next decade, it helps everybody in that regard, and the club can plan their projects around that, or we can schedule the event around those events or anything else they may already have commitment to already.
Do you approach courses, or do courses approach y'all about these events? And with tee sheets filled all over the country now, is it getting harder to for courses to give up their facilities for a week?
I'll answer it 2 ways, Greg. One, for the Southern Amateur, it's a little bit of both. We, like I said, we have 3 anchor sites now. So the other 7 years we're trying to fill in. We do get outreach from facilities that are interested in hosting. We also outreach to facilities. There might be some geography involved. We're like, hey, we haven't been to Texas in 12 years, so we probably ought to go to the western part of the footprint. So there is some of that as well. Thankfully we're in a really good position with the Southern Amateur. It is booked through 2031 right now, with one open year in 2029. We do have a facility penciled in for that year right now, so that's looking great. And the Southern Juniors booked through 2027, and we already have 2028 and 2029 being discussed with 2 facilities that are running it through their internal approval processes. So it's I would say at the international level, it's we only got to find 2 sites for the Southern, so it's a little easier. We could be a little more selective and kind of move them around. Now, taking it down locally, here in Alabama, it is getting harder. I will say that. We only have so many golf facilities in the state, and when you try and mix in, like you said, especially public court like the Trail, they are just going berserk right now. And I remember I called down to Grand National. I had some buddies that came to Auburn back in May, and I reached out to them in February and said, hey, I got some friends that would like to come out there and play the Trail. And they said, okay, we've got a 11:30 on the lake course on Friday, and we have a 12:30 on the other course on Saturday. That was it. That was all they had, and this was 2 months out, from the date. And it's like, wow, that's impressive. And this goes to show, how the word is out about golf in Alabama, not only at the Trail, down at the coast, Kiva Dunes and Peninsula and Craft Farms, and so there's, I think people figuring out that Alabama is a really great golf destination state. It probably doesn't get as much, you know, love as it probably should compared to, our neighbors here, Florida and, and Georgia and Tennessee to the north. And, I think our friends at the tourism department's done a great job of, expanding nationally what the trail is, and not just the trail, but golf in the state. And our job, we work with the tourism to promote golf travel within the state for our own members at our own events, or just there's a lot of if you live in Huntsville, why go to Texas to play golf? You can just there's a lot of great places to play here within the state already. So that's been a really good partnership for us.
Right.
Andy, I want to go back to something that I saw in the press release for your Carolinas position now, and talking about the Allied Golf Association. Would you mind expounding on that and what that is, and what your role has been? I think you were the director of that or served on it for a couple of years, and just kind of expound on what that is and the relationship there.
Yeah, Chris, the strongest relationship that state golf associations have is with the USGA. And, for a long time, it was a pretty loose relationship. The USGA would call us and say, hey, we need you to run. Can you run these 12 qualifiers for us this year? And, handicapping and, the course rating, things that we were doing, but it really wasn't formalized. It was just, we were doing it. They were asking us to do it. And we are just trying to fit it in between the other activities that we're doing at the local level. Well, back in 2015, 2016, there was, I forget the exact number, but there was 140 or 50 golf associations in the country that the USGA was trying to work with. And just that's an unmanageable number. So the idea was to consolidate that down into more efficient, more geographically defined areas, but also making sure that all demographics of golf were being served at the same time. So that's where the Allied Golf Association, we used to be called State and Regional Golf Association. That was the old label for it. But then when there was a formal agreement now that's in place, and now we're referred to as Allied Golf Association. So it went from 140 or 50 associations. It's now down to 57, and that includes Puerto Rico as well. So, and it's not every state. It's in the Southeast. It's pretty clean. Alabama's got Alabama, Florida's got Florida, Georgia's got Georgia. I'm going to Carolinas. We'll oversee North and South Carolina, got Virginia, West Virginia, but you got some other areas in the country that the state border doesn't necessarily define the association, like Golf Association of Philadelphia. They kind of they also do Delaware.
Yeah, the Met.
Yeah, the Met, which is New York City, but they're in New Jersey. They have New York, State, and then even in New York, you got the Metropolitan Golf Association, you got the New York State Golf Association, and then in Rochester, you have the Rochester District Association as well. So, so over time, things have gotten more, condensed and, more operationally efficient is what we're trying to be as associations. So there's a lot of investment that's been going on between us and USGA on how we kind of change the mindset of just going from, well, we're golf associations, we do golf, to have more of a business mindset, while doing those things. I mean, we're not losing focus on who we are and what we are, but we're just trying to be more business oriented and make better decisions that will make us better associations, and we're able to serve our membership better and utilize their membership dues and resources that are provided to us to make sure we can in turn do the best job that we can to service the golfers and clubs in our area. So that's where that kind of started. And it's an actual agreement now. It used to just be kind of, I won't say lackadaisical, but there was no formalization there. It was just no accountability on either side.
Mhm.
And, now there is, we have key performance indicators that have to be met by us and also by the USGA. And, so it's really a true partnership now. And when we started the Allied Golf Association relationship, part of that was to have an AGA council, which was a group of leaders to work directly with the USGA. Instead of them trying to work with 57, now they're going to work with 10 or 12. And that was the group that I was on initially for the first 5 years
Mm.
of that. So, and even that continues to evolve. It's going to go from 12 down to 7 or 8, even now. So, it's a continuous evolving uh, thing. But at the end of the day, the USGA can't do it without us, and we can't do it without the USGA. And that's really, once we've kind of broke through that glass ceiling and understood that on both sides, then it's been full speed ahead. And certainly, you know, golf being one of the beneficiaries of the pandemic, and so we've been riding a lot of momentum right now, and we're trying to capitalize on that because I've been around long enough, and so have you too, that something's going to happen that's outside of our control, that's going to kind of halt and slow things down at some point. Hopefully, it's not anytime soon, but you never know, and it's just the way things work in cycles. So we know we're trying to advance and push and grow and do everything we can, but we also being mindful of, look, there's at some point there's going to be probably a little bit of a pullback.
Yeah, great.
One thing I wanted to touch on from the junior aspect is your youth on course initiative, and then you've got the 100-hole hike coming up
Mm-hmm.
to fundraise for that. I think from my standpoint, that might be the best initiative that I've seen the Alabama Golf Association present to the public as far as growing the game among the kids.
Yeah, I failed to mention that when we were talking junior golf earlier. Yeah, youth on course is certainly one of our pillars in our junior golf program and development, and providing access for juniors for $5 or less, even at some facilities. They pay $25 a year to join the youth on course program, and then they go to a facility and show their everything's digital now on their phones, and show their digital ID card, and then pay their $5. Certainly some strings attached. You're not going to get a Saturday morning at Oxmoor Valley tea time for $5 on the program, but there's we would not be where we are with the youth on course program. First, Jeremy Gardner again has championed that and gotten us going. But really, if it wasn't for the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail, we're not sure where that program would be right now. We do have, I think, 18 courses statewide. Most of them are at the trail, but we certainly have a few others that have joined the program, and they get to set the parameters of when they can have access. Which going back to what we talked about earlier with the populated golf, and that they got to reserve the prime tee times, obviously, for the big paying customers. But they may say Monday through Thursday after 1 o'clock, when tee times are available, call 48 hours in advance or something like that. So there's there's opportunities there. And but yeah, the trail, if it wasn't for them, they have really championed the program. So pretty much the entire trail is on it except for Rossbridge and Lakewood, but the rest of the facilities are part of the program. And Oxmoor Valley is the uh, most used facility out of all of our youth on course, which makes sense. It's in Birmingham. You got the backyard, 9 holes, par 3, you can just zip around there. And and that's where we're having our 100-hole hike fundraiser on October 28th is out there. So that's a fun day for us. To just be together, do work with our friends at the trail, and try and raise a lot of money for our program, because we subsidize, I guess, to explain kind of the economics of it. The kids pay, or parents, whoever goes to the counter, they pay the $5, but on the back side there's a contribution that we make to the facility as well. So they track the rounds; those get logged into a database. We get the report, and then we owe them X dollars on the back end. So so we're paying, we're subsidizing those rounds, and that's why we are fundraising for it, because that's where our foundation comes into play, and making sure that the kids only have to pay the $5, and we cover the rest with the facilities.
Is, uh, is the challenge really now to getting to the more rural parts of the state to get kids in schools, aware of golf, and whether it's their 9-hole muni in Eufaula or whatever? Is that the biggest challenge for growing youth on course?
Yeah, Greg, our really what we our vision here, and this is a vision I'm going to have when I go to the Carolinas, is the worst thing we can do is get a young individual excited about golf and go into school, put a club in their hands and get them excited about golf, and then they go, okay, now what's the next step? And we don't have the next step for them. And the country club kids, families, they kind of have that built-in programming at their club, but um, public golfers, not necessarily, and especially, like you said, in the rural areas where where do I go? And that's the question that we get. I live in Eufaula, or I live in uh, outside of Florence somewhere, and where do I, my kid's interested in golf, where do I start? And that's what we're trying to solve for on the big picture with the PGA section, and having connect the dots. There's a lot of great programs already in place, so we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. But what we're trying to do is, go from I'm an interested golfer to the U.S. Amateur, and show the pathway in between those two. And a kid and family knows, okay, I'm interested in golf, I live in Eufaula, all right, I'm going to go over to Eufaula Country Club, they have a junior program, meet the golf professional, they got clinics and camps and this and that. Okay, from there, now you got Operation 36, which, if you're not familiar with Operation 36, basically they start you, they don't start you at the tee and work you to the green. They start you near the green and work you back to the tee, and build in success. You don't move back until you can make 36, for 18 holes, if you will. So it's a great program, changes the mindset, and it's not just a great program for kids. It's for any beginner golfer. Starting them out more toward the putting green and working backwards instead of the other way. So there's that drive, chip, and putt. You start thinking about all the other initiatives. Then you get into the competitions. Locally, Birmingham Golf Association, Alabama Junior Golf, our JGA Tour, Jimmy Green Tour. So there's competition. Then you got the state level, state juniors, and then you got future masters, and so you start going through the majors, and then you get into the USGA, Southern Juniors, all the way up until elite amateur golf. So we're trying to help connect the dots for families, but also be educational on it as well, because everybody wants to have a college scholarship and go to Auburn or Alabama and play golf. But the reality is there's only 8 or 9 spots, and they can go across the world and find the best players they can. So there's other opportunities to play whether it's mid-major D1 or D2, D3, junior college, community college. There's so many different opportunities. If you really want to play college golf out there, especially on the female side, that we try to educate with our college golf nights with our parents and kids, just to show them that certainly you got to have the goals of I was the same way. I wanted to go play NC State, and that was where I wanted to go, and it just didn't quite work out that way. But that's we just want to make sure they understand there's many different pathways to play golf in college.
I think also courses need to realize that those kids are their future customers. And I'm not sure, sometimes they're not short-sighted in that aspect of it, where you got a 10-year-old kid. Well, eventually that kid's going to be 22 or 23 looking for a place to play, and he's going to return if he has a good experience.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what we do with our junior membership here. Youth on Course you pay for because it goes through the national office, and so there's some other things that are tied to that. But just to join the Alabama Golf Association, if you're 18 and under, it's free. And we have a great partnership with the State High School Association. We run the actual state championships in May each year, but a requirement to play high school golf is to have a handicap index. And we provide that free of charge. So it's there's we have some selfish reasons for that. We want to get as many kids exposed to the handicap system and to us as possible as juniors and their families, but also for their benefit is a handicap index. And it's really a performance indicator of where you are. And now in our Gen app you can track your stats and keep up with a lot of things that it's really game improvement tools. So we get some coaches that push back on us, like, why we got to have a handicap in this? Like, well, look, as a golfer, you want to have a handicap index. You don't know how you stack up and play competitions. If you get into net events and play them, as fairly as we can. So, but I look at it from a game improvement side of knowing where you started and where you end. And we have a thing called Gen Rewind that will come out at the end of the year that shows your year kind of in a pretty cool graphical sense of your best rounds and your averages, and kind of just gives your golf life, not just everybody's, but your specific. It's catered to the individual, and that's just part of the membership package.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's talk about your 100-hole hike that you mentioned. It's coming up, and it's a fundraiser for this initiative. It's going to be where and who all do you have participating this year?
It is October 28th at the Backyard at Oxmoor Valley, and we right now we've got our staff, majority of our staff. So if you go to our website, you want to donate, you can kind of pick the hikers. We have some people on our board. We have a separate Youth on Course fundraising board that works with us, and their job is simply to raise money. I mean, just they believe in what we're doing, and so they actually participate in the hike themselves. So it's not just them trying to raise money. They're playing 100 holes with the rest of us that day. So it's we'll probably have a group of 20-ish people that day. So it's our staff, our fundraising board, and there could be a few other individuals that just say, look, I believe in what you're doing. I'm going to raise $1,000 and I want to come out and hike with y'all that day. So it's a varied group of people, but we're all there for the same purpose, and that's to raise funds to make sure we keep the Youth on Course program viable and alive. And so far we've done a great job, but as it grows each year, the cost of it goes up, and we just want to make sure we're keeping pace with that.
Excellent.
I think one thing we need to mention too, that if you're a Youth on Course member and you're on vacation in California, and you've got your clubs, you can find a course there and go play for $5 or whatnot. So it's an initiative that travels across the country. It's not just Alabama specific.
That's great. That's a great point. I failed to mention that. You're right. It's a national program, and you can go to the Youth on Course website and search. Yeah, like I said, if I'm going to, Palm Beach, Florida, and put that in, then any Youth on Course participating facilities will populate, and you'll find out what your opportunities are there. So we've had some families come to Alabama and tell us that they from Michigan or from some other place that they came here and utilized the Youth on Course for their kids, but the parents, are golfers too, and they went and paid the rate that they the normal rate for adults, and so it's it does have a lot more benefit than just locally here. It does travel.
Let's change gears a little bit. So, what are your expectations now moving back home to the Carolinas? I'm assuming you're doubling or tripling your staff, given that you're over 2 states.
Yeah, it's a different thing. That's for sure. At the core, we all do the same things. Handicap administration, course rating, USGA qualifying, state, regional championships, foundation work, grow the game initiatives, junior golf programming. It's just there. It's 7x compared to Alabama. Carolinas is probably the second largest golf association in the country to Florida. We have 220,000 members there. Alabama's just went over 30, which we're incredibly proud of. I think when I got here, we were right at just under 17,000. So we've done a remarkable job of growing our membership here over the 9 years, and Carolina's just it's a lot. It's a bigger footprint, a lot more golf courses, a lot more golf facilities from the mountains to the coast, and so it's about 700 plus member clubs, and the staff there is 20 full time plus several contract part time individuals that help us with various 1 day programming and inter club, and some things I can tell you they're on the drawing board for here. For Alabama, I didn't quite get to, but I'm leaving the list with Jeremy, and he'll do with it what he wants to. But he knows where we were heading with some things, and hopefully you'll see more and more come out from the AGA as far as playing opportunities, especially for the higher handicap players. We want to shift some focus over that way. Interclub program. We had hoped to launch this year, but just didn't quite get it off the ground. And but those are fun competitions where clubs play each other home and away, and turn into a state college football playoff bracket in some ways, and identify a state champion at some point.
Mm-hmm. Will you be based in Pinehurst?
We're at Southern Pines, officially at Pine Needles. And when my last year there, we built back in 2014. At the end of 2014, we opened Carolina's Golf House, which is right there at Pine Needles. So anybody that's been to Pine Needles, when you drive down the driveway down to the lodge where the hotel and the golf course are, at the top of the hill there is Carolina's Golf House. So it is an impressive 13,000 square foot building, hall of history. It's really a great place to celebrate the history of golf in the Carolinas, and certainly anybody from Alabama is more than welcome to come and say hello, and see the great facility that we have up there.
Yeah, it's a great facility. I've played there.
It's a tough place to be based out of.
Yeah.
It's very fortunate. Like I said, it's I grew up in Raleigh. My grandmother was there in Southern Pines, so I mean, honestly, growing up, I was a baseball guy, so the whole golf Pinehurst thing didn't really, I knew what it was, but it really didn't mean as much as it kind of started becoming when after my internship, and I started realizing, huh, and when we lived there, you know, we're big beach people and love the water. So, we want to get away and go to the beach and this and that. Well, and I look at my wife, Tiffany, and say, well, everybody wants to come here for vacation. And, we're trying to run away, so maybe we need to kind of, look at that harder of, hey, we're in a really great spot here, which we are. And we're very, very fortunate, blessed to have that opportunity to go back there and got a great team, great situation that I'm walking into there. Jack Nance is one of my great friends, mentors in this business, and it's a great honor to take the baton from him. And I'm incredibly proud of what we've done here and leaving things in an awesome spot for Jeremy and the team to take it forward from this point.
Will your role change any given now, you can walk into the state high school tournament and there's Andy making sure things are running smoothly, and will you be on site at a lot of the tournaments up there, or will you be more in the office?
Yeah, it'll my role will change a little bit, Greg. Certainly I'll go out into the field, but it's more it'll be more high level management, of setting the vision, strategic planning, making sure we're meeting those goals and staying on target. So, I'm a tournament guy at heart. So, um, I still get some good gigs, as I call them, for officiating and being out in the tournament space. But we have a great team up there, and our tournament staff is 12 at the Carolinas, so they don't need me to get in their way on a lot of it. But I'll certainly go and be available and be supportive of whatever they need. But it'll just be different. They you know 371 tournaments is what the CGA ran this year. So it's we have 58, I believe, is the number here in Alabama total. So it's a different thing. Just can't get to everything, but certainly, I'll be out and about as much as I can while making sure things are being handled administratively in the office.
Well, Andy, it's obvious things have improved over the past 7 or 8 years that you've been here. As I mentioned a minute ago, as a participant in many of the AGA events, I see that. Um, as we're kind of coming to a close here in fun, I wanted to see if you would share anything about your office as an open door, no door policy.
Yeah, that was the running joke when I got here. We do have an open door policy. That is true. We have that in writing. It's in our employee manual. But when I first got to Alabama, our first, we're at a new location now on Warner Road
Right.
here in Hoover, but we were up the hill in Vestavia on the second floor in the corner of an office suite. But when I first started, Buford and I worked together for the first couple months, and he certainly still had his office, but the only open office in the building was next door, and it had no door. So that was the running joke with the staff. I was like, "Well, I have an open door policy," but they're like, "Well, you don't have a door, so you have to have an open door policy on it." So that joke still remains to today. But I do have a door now, and it's open 97% of the time, and the team knows if the door's shut, there's something going on that I've got to address. But otherwise, yeah, I'm available, and that's just the way we interact here at the office. Walking up and down the hallways, the conversations that we have in the doorways, and that's where the good stuff happens. Is just us just having a conversation and kicking some things around, and it's amazing some of the things that we do now. Really the genesis of it was just us chit chatting in the hallway on brainstorming some things, and like I said, that's where the good stuff can come from.
I just have one more thing. Do you miss the traveling RV that you inherited when you got there?
Short answer is no. I never drove it, and that was one of the things that the board here was ready to kind of pivot from, and we were. It took a little while to find a new owner for it, and I give Buford credit. He came over and made sure things were good with it, and we got it. We got the new owner set up in it. But yeah, that's now we travel differently. With our transit vans, and um, so it's a little easier on our host clubs when we get there to not have to worry about trying to find a spot for the RV or power to it, and those kinds of things. So, but hey, look, the vision for it and was I remember not the sidebar. I remember the first time I met Buford and the RV was they had the Southern Amateur at Country Club in North Carolina in 2007 neighborhood in there, and we remember we heard about it, so we went over there and met Buford, and he gave us a tour of the RV and this and that. And we thought, well, this is kind of a neat setup and thought on it, but the practicality of it is we just not quite what we do nowadays.
Yeah. Well, Andy, thank you so much for your time. It's been very enlightening, and I think the listeners are going to enjoy this episode and learn a few things that maybe they didn't know. Certainly want to help the AGA with the on-course initiative for the youth, and anything that we can do there, we want to try to do. So thanks again for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. I appreciate your time. I know have you got your office already packed up, or
Not yet. No, November 8th. So I still got a little bit of time. And yeah, Jeremy hadn't been in here taking measurements yet, and wanted to change the drapes. He'll get
you
a chance, but we're still. I still got a little bit of time here left. But yeah, at some point here, I'll start kind of going through things, and we're already transitioning things internally now over to him and showing him a lot of the fun stuff that executive directors get to do that
yeah.
kind of make the magic happen.
We do appreciate you taking some time with us and bumping up the AGA a little bit, and best of luck to you going forward in the Carolinas. And I guarantee you I will stop in at Pine Needles, but you'll probably be on the 5th or 6th hole whenever I do. So
you guys are always welcome, and as I say, y'all, the state of Alabama will have the biggest cheerleader for everything here up in Pinehurst, because it's a remarkable place, remarkable people, and it's been a phenomenal 9 years here, and I just can't thank everybody enough for the support that I've received. It's been amazing.
Right. So we want to thank Andy Priest of the Alabama Golf Association for being our guest this week. Got some really good insight there on all their initiatives and what they've been able to accomplish during his time here. We hate to see him go, but the Carolinas are getting a good leader up there, and he's handing it over to Jeremy, who is ready to take over and take the reins of the Alabama Golf Association. So if you want to know a little bit more about the Youth on Course initiatives or the 100-hole hike, to donate to the Alabama Golf Association, that initiative, go to their website, alabamagolf.org. And we'll be back next week with another fantastic guest.
See you next week on the Cart Barn Podcast.